I can do that.
Did you get it? Yeah, I got it.
Must, yeah, wait, right.
Ready. Oh, okay, let me get myself ready. Ready? Ready? Okay, ready. I will call us to order at 5:02. And I will start with the land acknowledgement. The Altadena Library District acknowledges its presence on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded land of the Gabrielino Tonga peoples. Altadena is located on the stolen homelands of the Hahamunga tribal band. The traditional territory of the Gabrielino Tongva is referred to as Tabongar, which includes the areas currently known as Los Angeles County, Riverside County, West San Bernardino County, parts of Orange County, as well as the 4 Southern Channel Islands. Entities such as the U.S. government and non-native settlers have subjected the Gabrielino Tongva peoples to historic and continuing injustices, including genocide, forced displacement, and cultural and linguistic erasure. Altadena Library commits to learning, educating, and informing its staff and residents of present-day Altadena about the rich histories, vibrant communities, and culture of Gabrielino Tongva people, present and past, through our collection, development, resources, and program offerings. Okay, do a roll call. Trustee Lim.
Here.
Trustee Justin, tell me how to pronounce your last name correctly.
Moramus.
Moramus. Trustee Moramus.
Here.
And I'm here, and Trustee Clark here. Okay, right. Is there any public comment? Not really. Is there any reordering of agenda items? Okay, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda? Second. Sorry, you have to be a roll call. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And thank you. Okay. Alrighty, we have the consent calendar. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Move to approve this consent calendar.
Second. All in favor? Great. Okay. Moving on down to department updates and special presentations and special reports, starting with the Altadena Library app. David?
Right. I have an extra layer of difficulties today, so forgive me if I make a few mistakes here or there. David Zierba, the IT and Technical Services Manager for the Altadena Library District. Hello, trustees and all the staff. I'm here today to give you a presentation of our new library app. Wanted to go over some key features that I found useful and important to share. And then I wanted to give a short demo. I realize we have a lot going on this evening, so I want to keep it as brief as possible, but happy to answer any questions along the way. Yeah, so the unique features or some of the things that are a little bit better about this app versus the previous one is that it's a fully branded app. So that includes colors, it includes our name. You search in the App Store, you don't search for the name of the app, you search for the Altadena Library District. Branding up at the top, and our logo is there present also. Which I'll show has a more modern looking feel. This app actually is a new version of the app. They just upgraded it recently, so it has a real nice, clean user interface, modern looking feel. More features than the previous one, so access to more of our resources in faceted sections. Really nice feature is the in-app browser, so you're not having to leave the app if you want to review resources. I'll show you what that looks like. And then from the staff side, it's easy to manage and make updates to it, and just make changes to other features that we'll talk about in a second, which are the coming soon features. So now that we've deployed this app, we're moving on to the room reservation and events management. And the benefit of this portal and the staff interface is you can manage all of that stuff through one staff interface, make changes to any of the features, room reservations and events, and then publish them all through one consistent user interface and platform. And then similarly on the public end, they're able to make room reservations through the app, directly on the app, and also view and book events. If there's a reservation requirement for it, they can book it all through the app as well. So here's the difficult part. So I'm gonna make an attempt here to share my phone screen so I can show you what that looks like. All right. All right, so you can see my app, my phone here. On the bottom right corner, I have our library app. You can see that it has our logo there. So if I tap on that, it opens right up. I'll also just show that that branding is there. So the Altadena Library District shows there at the top with the logo above the app. So you know that that's the full name of the app. If you search in the App Store, you'll find it there. So the home screen, really nice, clean interface, very modern. At the very top, we have our recommended reads. You can scroll through that. If you wanted to select a particular book, if you tap on it, it's going to go ahead and open the item details of that particular item. And then if it's available or not, you can place a hold directly from there as well. Some more information there. Some library use, so important information. A lot of people are interested in our passports office, so we put that toward the top. Some accessibility, some notary services, and so you can scroll through these things here. So there's quite a few different items there. We have our digital collection here, so our main digital collections, library, press reader, all there. And then if you see that there's not something quite there, we try to highlight all of our key digital collections. You can see all, and then that'll open that web browser that we were talking about, takes you to the website, and then you can see all the list of our resources there. And so you haven't left the app at all. When you're done, you just scroll back up and you can hit that done button. You're right back in the app where you left off. Same thing for research and study tools. We try to highlight some of the key research and study tools. What's nice about this too is they have different categories, so we can pick children's and teens homework research, and then it kind of narrows that down from there. So very nice. Again, if you see all, you'll be taken to the app. So the events currently take you to the website. Similarly, the events at this time, since we haven't integrated the events feature, are taking to our website where you can review and book events through the website. But when we integrate this events system, it'll just all happen natively in the app. Same with the room reservations, that'll be part of this portal as well. So that's some of the basic functions on the home screen. I did want to show a search. You can do it one of two ways. At the very top there, you can hit the search down in the bottom. If I just type in, a book, it has predictive text to try and give you a popular result. So if I choose the Giver, for example, will show different items here. And if I want to get the movie, I can go ahead and place a hold from there where I want to pick it up, confirm the hold, and we're good to go. So if I want to review what I have on my account, I can just hit the account button down at the bottom middle. Has my library card there, which is really nice. Any current checkouts here at the top are all there. And if you go back to overview, you can click on any of these things to view more details. So I have currently one checkout, 2 holds, and some fees. So I better pay those.
Well,
Do you really, or did you set it up?
These are fake accounts. It's called test pilot. All these things on here are pretty fake. Some of the items, if you look at my checkout, it's called test, the park pass. But yeah, this is just a fake account just to show you different setups here. So that's the overview of the account. In addition to that, there's the My Card here at the bottom. Love the feature that you can add this to your wallet. So let me just show you what that looks like in your wallet. So you can see that that's the wallet version of it. So you can open it from your wallet from Android or from Apple, scan the card right from there, or you have it in your app too.
I like that. My favorite part so far.
And I forgot to mention, while I was doing my search here, let's see if we can do it one more time. The benefit of having this as well is it has the ability to do different search filters. So you can hit here and do different searches. And one of the nice things is you can also find the Cloud Library items right there too in Hoopla. So click on Cloud Library and update the results, and we can see what's there in Cloud Library. We're still working with Cloud Library to have a more native ability to see items in there. So there's still some quirks there, but Hoopla has it built in just to the top there, so we can see it right there at the top, which is really nice. So we're trying to get Cloud Library to work with us on getting that feature in there. But either way, it still is discoverable. It's just a different discovery layer. So eventually we're trying to get them to get that tab at the top, which is really nice. We showed the holds. I showed you our account. If I hit the top right corner, you can see my account here, and I can also add another account. So if I want to manage my kids' account, see what they have checked out, if they're overdue on some items, I can add those in there as well. So flipping back and forth between multiple accounts really easy as well. I'll just show you the holds so you can see what that looks like. So this one's available for pickup at the Altadena Library District, and then this one's pending still, so it's not quite there. Yeah, I don't want that one after all. I'm gonna go ahead and cancel that, and there it is, it's all done. So let's show you what that digital library for the cloud library I was talking about. So if I click on that, it'll open up our cloud library web browser, so you can still operate and check out items from there. Unfortunately, they don't have the ability to view items in app. Some of the other platforms they work with, so we're trying to pressure Cloud Library to work with us and get some in-app checkouts and more native in-app use. Some other apps are able to do it, so we're hoping that they'll acquiesce a little bit. Yeah, so again, the room reservations and events booking, not quite there yet, but once we have those configured, we'll roll that out, and then that'll all be available in app. Yeah, so I showed the digital library card, multiple accounts. I didn't show the hamburger down here in the bottom right, that little green icon. So that you can also see the accounts there, has the events. So a couple other features that are really nice. The hours, you can see our hours there. We'll be adding in our vending machine to the mix there too. But you can see all of our locations, and it's native, so it knows today Bob Lucas is closed because it's closed for renovation, so it's not gonna show it as available, but on a day that it would be open in the near future, hopefully, we'll have that showing there as well. And it gives you today's hours. Again, the other thing I wanted to show you is if you wanted to search and you had an item at another library or a bookstore you wanted to look for, you get to scan via ISBN. You can enter it manually, or you can open the camera app, and then you can see I'm scanning that item there. And it's gonna pull that item up on my screen. So you can search for items through the app. So that's one feature. The other feature is if I'm ready to check out that item, I can scan the barcode, the item barcode, and I'm ready to check out. So I've just checked out that item. If I go to my checkouts here, you'll see that item just pulled up. That's Mina right there. Or right there.
How would that work?
It's not RFID, but they're working on that. So it's just using the camera as a digital barcode scanner, and then it's integrated with the library system. That's how it does the searching and checks your account.
Yeah,
So it's able to perform a checkout through that. So it just scans the barcode, it's linked to my account, and then I'm able to check out that item through that transaction.
yeah, but because of the security stuff, is that an issue?
No, it's not an issue.
Okay.
What security stuff?
I don't know, like sometimes they have that in other libraries. I don't know, we have it.
Yeah, there's different forms of security. We don't have the title
Yeah.
deep on our items. There's other forms that we operate under, but
Got
it doesn't cause any issues for us, fortunately.
Good.
So yeah, the various other things, standard stuff, social media, website, contact information. Again, we didn't look at any of the locations, but if I select the location, it'll pull up a map and have the phone number, the full hours, the address there too, so it's visible. And then, yeah, that's about it. Any questions I can answer?
So when are we sunsetting my Libra?
So, the plan, we've already actually added, a note into my Libro to say that, the new version of the app is out with links to the app stores for each of them. They've very graciously given us a year free service due to the fires as like a little, we understand you're going through some tough times. So, I think our app agreement ends around October, so we'll be sunsetting fully by then. But in the meantime, we in the app, it has a note I can show it to you if you'd like. My sharing went away. But yeah, so there's just a note in there that it pops up and it says, like, it's right there in there that says, like, download the new apps from the App Store. And then eventually we'll turn it off at the end of the term, which is, I think, in October.
So I haven't seen any signage in the library here.
So I think Bryn's been busy with a lot of the Eaton Canyon Fire initiatives and a lot of marketing related to the fires. So she has told me that she's working on a full-fledged push. She sent me some like one sheets that she's planning on putting out. She's off this week, but I think either later this week or next week, she's gonna start pushing it. She wanted to build a full campaign for it, but we're definitely gonna be marketing it, and with all the features baked in, we really feel like we're gonna get a lot of use out of it, especially when we get the room reservation software ready for the Bob Lucas Library, so it can be used for that. And then the events calendar, once we can get our team to, well, first we can get it implemented, and then we can get our team to cut over to using this new events calendar, because we have a system in place and we want to move it over to the new system.
Does it integrate with the current Microsoft product?
What's that?
Does it integrate with the current Microsoft product that you guys are using?
No, it's not, it's separate. They do have like the ability to, but we're not using it at this time. You're talking about for the staff interface?
No, for the room reservation.
Oh, no, so we would cut over to this new platform. The one that we're using is essentially a list with a form attached to it that is the interface for it. So this is a much more, like, it has a lot more features, a lot more customizations to it, and it's a true room reservation application. Sorry, I thought you were talking about Microsoft accounts, because they do have the ability to integrate with Active Directory for staff accounts.
This is really good. I downloaded it, placed a hold in real time while you were explaining how to do it. What does freeze hold mean?
If you are gonna be out of town and you know you're probably gonna be, you're next in line for that item and you wanna give someone else a turn before, so you don't lose that hold, you freeze it, and then
Oh,
when you're ready, you can resume it or unfreeze it.
got it. That's really cool. This is great.
So much better.
So much better, yeah.
Anything else?
Thank
Thank
you, this is very cool.
All right. Diana, summer reading program.
Like to introduce Monica Isaac Garcia. She's our new branch librarian.
Yay!
Prior to starting here, she was at 3 different libraries working part-time after she got her librarian degree. So we're happy to have her here.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm telling her how beautiful her new branch will be once we.
You're gonna like it.
And so, hello, there you go. Okay, so Catalina will pull up the presentation. So, my name is Diana Wong. I am the interim youth and family services librarian, manager. And I have the pleasure of talking about summer here at ALD this evening. Okay, so our summer programming started just earlier this month, June 2nd. It'll run through August 16th. Our team selected the I Read theme, Level Up at Your Library, and that focuses on play and building relationships and learning through play. And a lot of our activities are sort of geared towards that. Let's go to the next slide and we can talk about our challenge. So the challenge, summer reading is for all ages. We use the Beanstack app to log our minutes and track activities. For the challenge, to complete the challenge, every individual will need to earn 5 badges, and they can do that either by reading or reading 500 minutes or completing activities in our 5 categories. You can do that or a combination of the activities. There are 5 categories that go along with the theme. It's level up with yourself, level up for fun, level up your library, level up community, and level up self-care. In addition to that, we also have a community reading goal of 250,000 minutes. We are currently at 55,000 minutes, so please log in your time. It's pretty easy to do. If you don't know how to use Beanstack, please visit us at the information desk, at any of the information desks, and we can set you up. explain to you the entire program. Next slide. So the incentives at registration, every individual will get this cool tote. It is fabric, so when you get it, we have fabric markers at the desk, and you can stay and color it in. In addition to the tote bag, each person also gets a book at the desk. And teens are a little special. In addition to the tote bag and a book, they get a reading journal to help them like log the books that they're reading for themselves. It's like a nice keepsake. At the completion, if you complete with 5 badges, just last week, you can start redeeming for your prizes. For children, it's the treasure chest. We have like a lot of little fun manipulatives and mindfulness little things for them to choose from, to select from in the treasure chest. Teens get a $5 gift card, and that's to unincorporated coffee. Adults have the option of either a $5 gift card to grocery outlet or Arrow's Burger that just recently reopened. So our next slide, summer kickoff. It actually happened June 7th, so I'm really excited to be able to show you some photos and talk about what happened. We had about 250 folks at our morning event. We had a mini D&D sessions. We had craft station, face painting, jungle games. We had Sid Studios photo booth there. And then we closed it out with a magic show with Robert Ramirez. And they also have partners there as well. If you want to go to the next slide, Carolina can go through them. These are the photos. So you see at the top right, we had jungle games, we had cornhole, we had giant Connect 4, someone's playing with the giant Jenga set. The next photo to the top is Mia handing a little library patron there a die for D&D. They weren't exactly able to D&D, but they're able to roll the die and get like a free little prize. But for those who aren't aware of what D&D is, it is a tabletop role-playing adventure game where it's focused on storytelling and competing, like kind of going on a quest. So it's actually a lot of fun. And then let's see, we have our CC1 there with Kristen and Monica doing signups for games that day. Our station, which is a bubble making station, and we went along with a game about level up as well with play and STEAM activities where they're engineering some sort of really cool bubble wand to get the biggest bubbles. But I think the formula that we made was a very super long lasting solution that created ginormous bubbles that like floated to out of orbit. Let me see. On the bottom there is actually, we were supposed to have Bevel coffee here doing like a regular coffee bar, but they weren't they were unable to attend last minute, but they did send, let me get this right, send Gary, who was a good spirits coffee champion. If you don't know what that means, he's like a champion coffee cocktail person, and he was actually like really cool. And this was a family event, so he actually made coffee cocktails. So he had juice infused with cold brew that morning for folks. And it was really cool because he brought a box of Pokemon cards, and it sort of aligned with their level up theme. And you see the kids there sort of took over the coffee station and organically just did Pokemon cards that morning. So it was really cool. Next slide. More face painting, more giant games. Yeah, I need more photos. Oh, okay, let's go to our next photo. And I wanted to talk about 2 organizations that we partnered with that morning. We had Families in Schools as an organization. They were actually also here for the LeVar Burton event. They distributed books to kids for TK to 3rd grade, and they brought 400 books. And they distributed almost all of them. The leftovers we're keeping and distributing for our registration prizes and outreach as well. So we thank them for their partnership with us. And also a plug-in for them, July and August, they also have volunteer storytellers who will be doing storytime programs with us at the libraries at both Loma Alta and Maine. After each story time, they're gonna provide backpacks with like 3 or 4 books in them for children to keep when they go away. So that's pretty cool. The top and the left photo is Imagine Preschool from La Crescenta. This actually came about when some of the preschoolers from this school, they were impacted by the fire. So their teachers at Imagine Preschool sort of try to calm that fear through learning, right? When we learn, we have more information, we're not as scared. And they created a lot of lessons around like the fire and how to rebuild and regrow. So one of the lessons is about ecosystems and plants. And I guess over several weeks, they collected a lot of seeds from all the foods they ate and tried to sprout them. And when I heard, I was thinking, oh, maybe they like did 25, 30 little plants, but they sprouted over 120 seedlings and they brought them all here to do that. They had like squash, mint, orange trees, lemon trees, lavender, and they're just giving them out to help people regrow their gardens or take it to where they're currently living. And yeah, they're just like the cutest little bunch. Okay, so lunch at the library. This is our second year of lunch at the library. It started June 9th. I'll go through Friday, August 1st. Again, we are partnering with Pasadena Unified. They are our food provider and they've been great over the past couple of years. And we want to thank you to the California State Library for giving us this grant again, because that enables us to have programming every day for our participants and lunch goers. In addition to free lunch for ages 0 to 18, on Fridays, folks are able to take home books to help build their home libraries, and they're able to select 2 from the hundreds of books that we have. And then every day, there's also an enrichment program that's connected to these, to a lunch. Like Mondays, we usually have a presenter. Tuesdays are exclusively teens, so tomorrow there's a skateboarding program for them in the parking lot. Wednesday, this coming Wednesday is one of the bigger programs. It's our Farm to Summer program. And as a requirement, we have to teach about where our food comes from, healthy eating. So we'll be having farm to table, farm to summer, and we're gonna have a petting zoo out in the parking lot. LA Compost will be here again to teach about compost and worms. They'll also be doing a seed bomb craft, and then we'll have other activity stations. Lunch at the library isn't without our 2 great teams this year. We have Errol Datsy and Andres Garcia. This is one of the first week of them serving. You'll see we have serving our participants and some happy families eating in our community. This is just to show you the layout of the room, basically. This was one of the programs after lunch where they're making an owl galby. It's like a big keychain to hang from your backpack. But it got pretty full that morning. It's been fun for lunch at the library. Folks tend to eat a little later, like when we're about to close up, so we have to quickly transition the room to either for the program or for like a magician to come in. But it's been fun. Our teams are great, and then facilities also help. Programs and more programs. I just wanted to let you know that this is June 23rd and we've had at least 30 programs already this summer. And I've counted them through the book and not everything's even in there. We were having like over 100 programs this summer. So I hope you guys can at least attend a couple. Let me see. Just to list a few at Maine, of course, we'll have our Monday nights D&D sessions for adults. We had tie-dye here last week. That was really popular in the summer. We have a nonfiction writing. At Loma, we'll also have programs at Loma Alta as well. There's a stay and play program where toddlers can play in the morning. Teen programming will be available there as well. I know they're opening up their seed library too soon. And then we're also doing offsite programming. There's a Neon Retro. They're having video game night there. And then there's also a DYM Books. If you guys aren't aware, that's a bookstore just on Woodbury and Los Robles. And then they're having an event there as well. Outreach, those are just a few that we've attended to already. Every weekend through July, through the early August, we're committed to going to at least one outreach, and every week outreach invitations come and we're accepting and going and representing to be at these events. So hopefully, you guys will see some of you also out there as well. And our summer finale is August 15th. It's a Friday night. We're again doing another movie night. Aligning with the theme of Level Up, we'll be showing Jumanji. There will be more board games, jumble games, snacks, and it's just a nice way to get together and end the summer. It's pretty low key, but it's a lot of fun. People bring blankets and everything and bring their own snacks. We have one last slide. Okay. Our beautiful program that was developed by Bryn, the calendar of all that's happening. At the end, last page is the summer survey. It's in English and Spanish. There's also a QR code that folks can go in and do it online. But if folks want to just tear the last page off and turn it in to one of the public service desks, we do take this feedback and apply it to our next round of planning, which starts again in September. I know some of the things that came out from the previous year we're able to apply. And yeah, if you have any questions, can I sign you up for being stuck? Did you all get your summer brochure?
Yes.
Have you read in any minutes already?
Absolutely.
Have you bought them?
No.
Any questions?
How are you seeing participation or attendance at programs? Because obviously everybody's displaced and it's different, you know, than a normal summer. How is that showing up in some of the programs or in the way that those are happening? Or I don't know, just what are you noticing?
I think folks are engaged this summer. People are coming in. I want to say like lunch at the library is sort of similar to last year. I've been talking to to parents, and they tend to have their kids do like a summer camp, and so they eat there and they actually come a little later. And like, so our programming numbers are a little higher than lunch at the library, which is interesting. So I may take that into consideration next year in terms of when to offer lunch, if I'm able to shift it a little bit. Our programming, I think it's sort of holding steady.
Yeah.
People can come if they will. I mean, if they can. But I think we're doing the best we can. Like, people are happy to be here, and like the folks who have been here are just really appreciative to know that we're offering programming still.
No,
Like
100%.
at a maximum.
Yeah, well, that was my question, right? Because like the level of the number of programs we're doing, I mean, it's very comparable to last year, which is amazing.
Yeah, we're trying to make sure there's like weekend programs as well as evening programs, just to like make sure everyone can come.
But you guys went like way above and beyond, right? Because previously for lunch at the library, it wasn't daily programming, right?
No, there was daily programming. I
Daily
think
as well.
we just shifted it to a little bit differently. We had like more story time programs, but we want to utilize our grant funding to bring in like enrichment programs, and like it's working really well. And plus with our two sites, we have to balance our staff and in terms of like them being able to produce these programs. I mean, we are still pretty robust with our programming, so
I think it's more.
it's more, oh,
Yeah.
Any other questions for Diana? Thank you.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Thanks, Diana. Okay, moving on to department updates and reports. Any feedback or questions about the department reports? None?
Okay, I have two extremely low stakes, questions.
Okay.
One, very, very low stakes. One is there any further update on the owl? 'Cause I'm very invested in the owl.
That was in here.
I know it was, but like since then, have we seen
Initial
it
site.
again
I
or?
have not seen it since
Okay.
the day it was on the bridge. Daniel, do you have any owl updates?
Oh, I updated you on that when we had a drone sent up there
Yeah,
and, we were able to see the old, what we think is the old nesting area.
mhm,
We do, now. So we couldn't see anything, but from what I read, that they are, it takes about, what was it, about 3 to 4 weeks to hatch.
mm,
So by the time I saw it, it was already pretty large.
yeah,
I think that was towards the end of it,
gotcha.
getting hatched, and then by the time it was brought to the board's attention, it was probably already 45 days after that.
Right.
So, yeah, we sent the drone up there, couldn't really see anything. We tried to find him, but we were flying over and watching it.
Who took the picture of it on the bridge?
Me.
Oh, that was you?
That's great.
Okay,
There was a bunch of us out there, so.
And it was it just
It
chilling
looked
there?
Very scared.
Oh.
It was shaking. I have a little video, I'll show you.
Oh, it didn't fly?
It was like just sitting there for a while and then like Vicky put some water in a bowl by it and then like we all walked away. And then it started like slowly going down the bridge, like
Hmm.
backing out, and then it was gone.
Mm.
So it was chilling out there for about, what would you say, maybe 2 hours? It was on the bridge,
I wasn't there for it.
something like that. Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of terrified. But yeah, like I wouldn't have gotten as close as some staff did, because you knew the parents were watching, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Um, But, you know, the owls, you hear them at night here all the time.
mhm.
They're around.
What was your second?
My other
most favorite?
extremely low stakes observation is on the website and also it turns out on the app, because I just checked it. AustinLibrary.org/events doesn't go anywhere.
I think it's programs.
Well, it is, but that you can like, there's an events button, and so you can click the button and then it says, we don't know, but on the top nav bar, it's a drop down to programs, so just,
We'll
Is
make
that-
a note to
yeah.
fix that problem.
yeah. Okay, that was it. Like I said, very low stakes.
Any other questions or comments?
No, nothing. I just wanted to say, like, we see the band all the time. Volume 1 is all in about the community. And the engagement is always pretty good, pretty high for that.
Good. Okay. All right, let's move on to item 6. 6A is our support groups. Is there anyone online from the support groups?
No, Mark did stop by today, so I guess I'll just remind everyone that the final book giveaway, because they're not selling books on Saturday, is taking place this Saturday, the 28th. From 10 to 12, it will be Altadena residents only. And then from 12 to 4, it's anyone, but they're not charging. They're just giving all the books away. And part of the promotion was encouraging booksellers to not come, so people can help rebuild their libraries. So a reminder about that.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I don't think there's much else going on.
Okay,
Friends they'll be on their break until September.
thank you. Administrative update?
All right, that's me. Good evening, everyone. As you can see, we didn't have our May meeting, so all the reports were very, very, very long. So I'll try to be somewhat concise. I was excited to announce that we selected Monica Isaac Garcia. As you see from my report, she worked in Alhambra, Monrovia, and South Pass. So I think she's really pleased to have,
Was that all at the same time?
yes,
Part-time?
yes.
Wow.
Wow.
So, yeah, I think it was really exciting to get a full-time job and this, and she went part-time librarian in those other libraries, so I think that brings a good, like, interesting background of working with different communities. You know, came in, hit the ground running because it was summer reading right off the bat, so. Coincidentally, and I'm skipping around a little bit, Yvette Casillas, who's been our Youth and Family Services librarian since December of 2020, kind of exited right at the same time. So the timing sort of worked out nicely that we had a librarian start who's really been helping out with summer reading programming. Very sad to see Yvette go, but she was promoted into the Riverside Public Library System as the senior librarian. So really happy for her, and it's a much better drive for her, from what I understand. We have a lot of staff that have not the best commute, so really happy for her. We do have that job posted on the website, although we have received over 60 applications at this point. I've gone through them all. We need to get going, so we're gonna set up external interview panels soon and hopefully get a youth and family services librarian in place. In addition to Monica joining us, I've been extremely busy onboarding people because it is summer intern time of year. We've brought on board 4 interns that the district, is paying through either the grant money that we get through the state for one to the library. We have our 2 interns, as Diana mentioned, Errol and Andy, what do you go by? As well as a public services adult intern named Maggie Fellows, who's actually, I think, working at the desk right now. And then this morning we had our first ever technical services adult intern, Brandon Sherman, start. So have some really interesting people that are going to join us for about 10 weeks this summer. So that's exciting. We also partnered with PCC and PUSD to support their summer internship programs. So they are paying the interns, but they're working for us. One of them is Shyla Matthews. She's gonna be a senior at Pasadena High School. So did they start yet? You guys know?
Charlotte's, I think, on Thursday.
They're starting right around now too. And then we also have Kate Nee, I think is how it's said, and she's a student at PCC. So we're actually gonna have 6, which is exciting. So yeah, lots of onboarding. So in addition to that leaving, we also got the sad news that library aide Sandy Wang was leaving. Her last day was last Wednesday. But she also got promoted to be a library associate for LA County at the South El Monte branch. So as we're doing exit interviewing, we work closely with Patty, our HR consultant, and she was like, you guys are the farm team that's like prepping everybody to move into promotional opportunities. So excited for people, and we'll continue to recruit. We did interviews for both adult services manager and youth and family services manager beginning of June. And we made offers for both, which is really exciting news. We're really excited about both of them. Due to like scheduled time off they already have, they won't be starting for a little while, but that's okay. It seems like it's working out well with opening Bob Lucas, transitioning Diana over there, etc. So I know I'll be able to announce names and more information at the next meeting, but really excited because you all know how difficult it's been to hire managers, pulling teeth the last couple of years. So really excited that this recruitment went as well as it did. And yeah, as I mentioned, we're recruiting for the youth and family services librarian. So marketing, Bryn has a lot going on all the time, as you can see from her report. She created the beautiful 12-page summer catalog again, as Diana mentioned. That takes quite a bit of time to pull all of that together. She also spent a lot of time promoting the opening of our Altadena library at Loma Alta Park. creating signage for the site itself and other things like that. We also got some really great exposure with the Kenny art exhibit that was in here in pretty much all of May, a little bit into June, as well as the reception that was held here. I think we had almost 180 people come to that reception in this room.
Mhm.
So that was pretty exciting. Bryn also is our representative on the Eat and Fire Collaborative that still meets weekly. They're largely working right now on the long-term recovery group efforts. So I'll be going tomorrow because Bryn's off. But she has been helping them with their communication and hiring of the consultant that's doing that work with them. So that's keeping her busy. In addition to that, I don't know if you saw, but we have built an immigration resources page on the website. I don't remember when you raised this question, Katie, but in response, especially to what's been going on with ICE of late, we're going to be bringing the board a privacy and confidentiality policy, which really is like the backbone of making sure that we're protecting people that their data, their information at the library, as well as last week at the public services meeting, walking staff through what they can or cannot do
Great.
if ICE comes in. And what that is we're a library, so we can't prevent them from coming into the library, but at the same time, Daniel spent time labeling every space in the library that's staff only, because that indicates that they cannot enter those spaces. And then we did let staff know that if like they're approached and asked for information or any kind of help, not to provide that. If they do have a subpoena or a warrant or anything like that, that has to come to myself, David, or Ashley, and we'll work with our attorney to provide what we must. So working all of that, as well as, like I said, I think it's a really great web page on the website that we can direct people to get resources and really understand what their rights are. There's also these red cards. I don't know if you've seen them.
Yeah.
We have them at the public service desk as well. So yeah, an interesting time. Let's see. Bryn also supported the Altadena Historical Society's Juneteenth luncheon last week by creating their program as well as the promotional flyer and getting the word out about that. She could tell was successful. It was a very full event. And she also worked closely with Ashley and I to schedule a very successful visit from the first partner, Jennifer Seibel Newsome, last Wednesday. I'll put pictures in. That was sort of on the download to begin with, but now the information's out on social media, so we'll get that in here. But I was able to spend a lot of time talking to her about everything going on here. So it was a really, really great visit, I have to say. Do you want to talk about crisis and recovery?
Yeah, I can talk,
So I'll skip over that.
yeah, I can talk about it.
Okay, and then just real briefly, programming and partnerships. Thank you to all of the trustees for being at the opening of our Altadena Library at Loma Alta Park. Although the weather wasn't very nice, it was a really nice celebration, I thought. We're really excited to have that site, which is gonna serve as our alternate site when Maine closes. So there's that. We're also partnered with the Altadena Revealed Speaker Series. There was 1 month that moved over to the Blinn House, but it will be back this coming Friday. The first 2 times we hosted it, I think there was like over 200 people that came. So we'll continue to house them. It's the last Friday of every month. So I did include information in my report if you're interested in attending. But I do think that I really enjoyed that partnership because it's bringing in different people too. I think than normally would come up here to visit. So again, creating more exposure about everything that we're doing. What else? Our Poets Laureate have finished out their year of programming. Not only did they present at LitFest in Medina, which was at the beginning of May, and there were many of them there. If you look at my report, like most of the poets were there presenting. They also had their poetry cookies, which is their, last event of the year, later in mid-May. So they had another successful year of programming, and we've already met with them to talk about what they're gonna do into next year. The Friends also had their annual meeting, their membership meeting, which Kenny Art was in here, so he was the featured speaker. He did a wonderful presentation where he kind of like talked about how he got to where he is and all the things that he did. I learned a lot about him that night. It was really great. And that definitely drew people to their meeting in a way that doesn't always happen.
That's available for streaming, by the way, on our website.
Oh,
like,
cool.
if you missed it, we did pay through. that.
Yeah, check it out. It was really interesting, yeah. A thank you to Camila for going to the Recover, Rebuild and Revitalize dinner with me, back in the middle of May. It seems like a long time ago, huh? Public kudos to Catalina for helping distribute 300 mobile hotspots.
Wow.
Since February. It's a lot of work, making sure that like we're giving them to people that are eligible and the pickups and all of that. So thank you to her for that. And then we also hosted the 4th annual Pride Walkabout last weekend before, June 14th. And that event was not going to happen at all. And I really pushed Nick to make it happen. I thought it would be another great reason to get people up here and have received so much positive feedback. So the foundation and us really provided a lot of support for it, but I do think people really appreciated it. And it was well attended. And I think that's about all I'll say. As you can see, we had lots of graduations between Ashley and I's households. So now it's time for me to kick Landon out of the coop, right? Let him fly. I did point out with statistics that we'll start adding Loma Alta statistics starting next month. But again, the management team and I are looking at what we're going to report, how that's gonna look. So if there's other data that you'd be interested in seeing, just let me know. And we're gonna look at this as a whole and make sure we're sharing the right information. And that's it for me. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions over here?
Bunch of stuff.
So much going on.
Okay. All right. Financial reports.
We have Risky here.
Good evening, everyone. In your packets, I will go over the financial statements as soon as my screen comes up here. Apologize, don't know what just happened. There it is. On page 86 is where we'll start. We did not have a meeting last month, so your April and May financials are in here, but we'll just go through May since they are year to date. So if you can turn to page 86, the budget to actual report for general fund, I'll highlight some of the items. We've got 1 month to go, and there is quite a bit of activity that's been occurring still in June. So when we show you next month your preliminary June activity, there is still quite a bit of work to do on some of these lines. But we'll start with property taxes. There were some adjustments that came from the county in May. However, they did not affect so far the ad valorem tax that has been distributed from the county. I am expecting that there will be some refunds and that we'll see those posted in June. But to date, we have not, there's nothing from the county that's indicated any returns. And so we are still showing a pretty strong showing at 99%. Library fees are picking up again. We were down a little bit when the library was closed, but you've still got a few weeks, well, a whole month of activity to show on here yet. So you'll come in a little closer to budget there. Grant reimbursements are quarterly, reported quarterly, so that's through March. So you're going to see a little bit of activity there the last quarter. Interest is right on target, so that's good. Other revenue, what's primarily missing here is the E-rate revenue, which we have received since the time of this report. So that number is going to look a lot better when you see your June preliminary statements as well. Salaries are over a little bit. We're talking about line 11 here, and that has to do with cash outs. The district hasn't usually budgeted for those. They just budget normal salaries. So we've started doing that this year to put in a little room when people, it is in the policy that when employees have unused leave and they get to a certain number, a certain amount of hours, that those can be paid out. So that's why that line's over just a bit. Hourly is under, which will make up for that overage in the line before, and that has to do with vacancies during the year, some of those vacancies that have been filled throughout the year. I'm going to go down to lines 19 and 21, which have to do with your CalPERS payments. Line 19, the budget is high because there's a couple of employees that we are still waiting to make a determination from CalPERS on whether or not the district will need to contribute for past service. Those positions were excluded from the agreement. However, they might have been eligible, so we're still waiting. Nikki had provided that information to them several months ago. So we budgeted just as a precaution, but we may not know from them for another month or so. The UAL payment was made, of course, at the beginning of the year. That's in full. Line 21 is the discretionary payment. And we have scheduled, or it's on our list to schedule either at your July or August meeting, an educational session for the entire board. If we can, we'll try to have it twice, one with the budget committee and then one with the board, where we talk about the options. First of all, just explaining your pension liability, what the dollar amount is, what factors go into calculating it, how CalPERS determines the amount that you pay each year, and what a discretionary payment is, and your options for making it or not making it. Rather than just budgeting it, which is what we did last year, and the district had funds that they contributed to it. Before making any payment or decisions in the future, we thought that it would be good for the board to know a little bit more about that item. And then, of course, given some of the other constraints, you may or may not choose to fund that this year. We'll go down to operating expenses. A few of those are over. Some of that has to do with fire remediation, but for the most part, some of those lines have just been paid in full. For instance, insurance is paid for the year. You're not going to see any entries there. The only two that are really under are your staff travel, which some of that you're probably going to come in a little under budget, but there was some travel in this last month, so you'll see that pick up. The trustee election will end under, but all expenses have been paid to the county, so that is good that we budgeted a little more. And I will go back to advertising. Nikki mentioned there's still different things going out, so you'll be in line with budget, if not a little bit under when the year ends for that line as well. Professional services in total is at 87%. However, your audit and financial consulting line will come in over budget. You have one more month to add to that, and that has to do with the vacancy of your staff accountant and some of the out of scope work that Eide Bailey has been performing. There is a plan in place to not budget as much next year because more of those duties will be taken in-house or from the district, excuse me. Let's see, next section. Again, some of your technology is right on the edge there. Your internet service, that E-rate that I mentioned before, that will catch up a little bit. They're just so behind in their billing. So you'll see that accrued at year end and get closer to your budgeted amount there. The next two categories are two of your most important ones in terms of mission of the library, but they are coming in a little bit under budget. Part of that due to the closing in January and February. So you will see that pick up a little bit. You'll see it a little closer to budget, but I do expect that you're going to end below budget this year, especially in lines, like books, some of the material lines, some of the programming will catch up. And when we get to donations and grants, we'll talk about programming there as well. You had budgeted to have a small addition to the reserves of 74,500. To date, you're actually showing we're projected, for year end, to have an addition of $500,000. I think that's a little strong, but with revenues coming in right where they're supposed to and expenses being under, we'll see where that is this year. It's going to be a little bit different, but we'll look at that when we talk about the budget as well, where I've got some updated figures when we did your budget. Any questions on donations and grants? Or excuse me, general fund, I'm sorry, before we go to donations and grants. Okay, then we'll move to slide 88, or page 88. We do expect to use all grant funds during the year with the exception of two lines. The literacy services on line 6 and your lunch at the library on line 7, both of those grant periods extend into the new year. So any unspent funds will not be lost. They'll be carried over and you will see those in your next year's budget being utilized. A number of the lines are like salaries right in line, staff development, travel, several are in line. There's a couple yet that adult services, all ages. We've been working closely with Ashley, Diana, some of the other staff to make sure that they're fully utilizing all the grant funds. So you should see a report in June with these all utilized. And then that does, of course, relieve some of the expenses that are on the general fund side, to help with that budget there. Any questions on donations and grants? Okay, the combined page, page 89 just shows them together so you can see the few lines that are shared, salaries, operating, and some programming is shared by both general fund and grants. So you can just see a combined total of what it costs to operate the library, about 5 million in revenue and a little over 5 million in expenses was budgeted, where again, I'm showing that you're in combined total right now is that you show an overage of revenue. So the district will use a good portion of that before you see your June preliminary statements. Okay, building projects are on the next two pages, 90 and 91. So page 90 is just showing this year's activities. So you see donations that have come in for different components of the building project, the naming components, and then interest income, which is still above, performing well above what was budgeted. You will, over time, start to see that number go down a little bit, just based on what the market is doing, and then also with a more concerted effort to earn a little bit closer to the yield on the bonds, since we're at a time period where there's a restriction on those earnings. Expenses, this year, this quarter, what you're seeing through construction costs is primarily Bob Lucas, where the rest of these lines have to do more with the planning for the main library. So expenses quite a bit under budget, and that's mostly due to the delay in that project. 91, page 91 is the details for your building project. So again, you can see in the final column, it's everything that's been received to date against everything that's been spent. So at this point in time, your building project balance is 23 million, which is above what you received in bond proceeds, and that's due to interest and also the grant that was received. At this point, you've received about 3.8 million of the grant and you have a potential of receiving the second portion, which takes you up to about 7.6. So with a $23 million balance, 19 of it remains in bond proceeds and 3.7 in grants. And again, the interest earnings are what have helped keep those balances so high while staying in line with the project budget. Any questions on the building project reports? Okay, we'll move to page 92, which is your balance sheet. Total cash and investments, 29.6. And again, a good portion of that has to do with your bonds that you can see just sitting under 20 million with the bonds and the taxes that have been collected to date. Your liabilities, a lot with your pension. You've got about a $3 million pension, and then an OPEB liability, your post-retirement benefit liability of close to 1.3 million, and then your bonds payable. Those make up the majority of your liabilities. And fund balance is showing about 3,679, and that has to do again with the built-up balance and what we're showing right now for net revenue and expenses. Any questions on any of the financials? The pages that follow are the narratives. If you have questions about what's included in a line or questions about any lines I didn't speak to tonight. Okay, that's all I have until we talk about the budget in a couple later agenda items.
Okay.
Any questions for now?
No.
Okay. Shall we go to the ad hoc committee reports?
Sure, I think they're all me.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm not gonna go through the reports that are in your package, because you'll have read those. I just wanna update you on anything that's sort of happened since then. So, on the Crisis and Recovery Committee front, let's start there. So what we have been basically doing for the past I wanna say 6 weeks, is every time there is a development in the budget process, Jean Hurst, our lobbyist, figures out how that affects us, and then we write a new draft of a letter saying what our updated ask is, and then we send that to everybody who's involved in the process. And so we've done at this point, I don't know how many letters, but like many iterations of this. And so we're continuing to ask for the 13 million additional in funds that we would need. We've been guaranteed that too in backfill from the state. So we're still out there looking for the 13. We'll see. It is a gnarly process right now, and there's not a lot of transparency, unfortunately, into how the budget is working. There is some question about a provision that may allow for loans, and we're suggesting that one mechanism might be a zero interest forgivable loan. That could work, but our contention is that the district is not a good candidate for a loan because we can't pay it back, like we don't have any collateral. That's sort of the reason we're in the boat we're in. So yeah, we're continuing to push hard on that front. I think that Jean is doing a great job. Nikki and Ray and I went up a couple weeks ago to Sacramento to have meetings with everybody again. I think that our ask is comparatively quite small in the grand scheme of things, but the state budget vibes are bad. So everybody's feeling very on edge about everything. So that's the news that we have, and it's not very helpful at this point. Like, I don't have anything very useful to tell you, but so the deal is they do have to deliver a budget that the governor has to sign by June 30th. You know, odds are that it's not like the real budget. It'll be a more real version than the May revised, but probably not the final version. There are also a lot of things that are gonna be in there, like this loan piece, that we'll need what's called a trailer bill later to be like, we're gonna do this and we'll figure out how later, and we'll figure out how later is where the rubber really meets the road for us. So we'll know a little bit more by June 30th. We'll know a little bit more by the end of July. Hopefully, by the time we need to set the special tax rate in the beginning of August, we'll have a sense of what seems to be likely to happen on the state front. That's my best guess at the moment, but yeah, that's what I got for now. I'm happy to answer any questions insofar as I can answer them, but.
Any questions for Katie?
Okay. Facilities, we went and looked at Bob Lucas today. It rules. It's so good, you guys. I can't wait for all of you to go inside and check it out. The furniture is getting delivered. A lot of the final stuff is getting buttoned up. So I think we'll talk with the construction manager, and then sometime in July, we'll set up some days and times for you all to drop in and take a look. We also want to get the community focus group out there at some point to take a look before it formally opens. We're still targeting August for our reopening after summer reading concludes, August 16th. Yeah, it looks really, 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 really good. I'm really excited about it. The only thing, like, we did a walkthrough today with everybody, and the only things that were issues are super minor, cosmetic things. So all of that will get sorted out quickly. Yeah, so that's great news. Main library, I mean, all of the processes are continuing. The big question is just gonna be our funding scenario and where we are. So we are moving everything forward, under the assumption that we'll be able to proceed, because it would be much more expensive to pause it and, try to restart it later. But again, I think we'll probably get to a decision point in August about, where we are and what we want to do. So, but all the other pieces are moving forward in the meantime, so that's positive. Any questions on facilities? And then government liaison, stuff is happening every day, all the time. I did misrepresent, one fact, our E-rate hotspot our E-rate is not how we pay for our hotspots, so, I was wrong about that, so.
We did have E-rate hotspots in the past though, so you.
I remembered it,
for a
but
reason.
we do it different, yeah, so.
Just recently have not been participating.
Exactly. So basically, we'll see what happens. The Senate had this joint resolution about basically Ted Cruz was like, the FCC should not be able to like ever do E-rate funding for hotspots ever, because why would government help people? And so that passed the Senate. It's now sitting in the House. There's no date for a vote yet, so we don't know like if that'll come up in this Congress or not. I have no idea. If and when it does get scheduled for something, obviously, we'll do the whole thing again and we'll call everybody and, we'll see what happens, but yeah, so it would not directly affect the way that we pay for hotspots at the moment. But I will just say, I didn't put this in the report because it's like very long, complicated, but there is a larger effort to sort of defund the whole E-rate program. There is a case currently in front of the Supreme Court about overturning like the FCC's ability to even do E-rate funding. So that could potentially impact us. We will see. Who knows? IMLS continues to be kind of a question mark. There was a lower court decision that said it was fine for everybody to stay fired while litigation proceeds through the courts. So all the people who lost their jobs still have lost their jobs, and maybe they'll get them back and maybe they won't. I included in your report from the state library kind of how they're thinking about this. Again, it doesn't really affect our funding directly, but just so you sort of know the lay of the land. The state library is proceeding in the way that makes sense to them. I think that makes a lot of sense as well. So yeah, it's exciting times. I would personally like to be not as exciting for even just like a week. I think if we could get a week of less excitement, that'd be great. Certainly not all of that is library related, but yeah.
Agreed.
Mhm.
Hard agree. Any questions or reflections for Katie on any of these reports? All right, then let's jump into new business. Beginning with review and approval of the Altadena Library purge of unrecoverable patron fines, fees, and inactive patron from the COLA system.
Hello, trustees, staff, members of the public. Again, David Zierba, IT and Technical Services Manager for the Altadena Library District. As trustee Wilkerson mentioned, here to talk about unrecoverable fines and fees on our patron accounts in our library system. So this was an active thing that did happen prior to me taking this role. However, it kind of fell off the radar as I started the role. Recently, we've been having discussions about reenacting it, so this is why you're seeing this. We'd like to add this to our regular schedule so we can bring it to you regularly, annually. We felt like this is an appropriate time as of any, being that we're ending our fiscal year and then starting a new one. Because this has been a long time coming, there's a few different things that we're looking to do for this particular occasion and then changing it in the future. So in this particular occasion, we would like to remove any fines that have occurred 3 years or older, in that we don't expect those fines or fees to come back to us if they haven't already. So that's thing one. And the thing two is the purge of patrons. So this normally we would just do regularly without the board's approval. So regular occurrence to clean up and maintain the database. However, because it's been some time since we've actually purged the database, including fines and fees, we'd like to also remove patrons that do have fines and fees as well. And so that's why we're bringing that in collectively. So between those two things, we anticipate removal of about $49,000. Again, although that number seems, relatively high, it's actually pretty small as far as budget's concerned. But in addition to that, generally when fines and fees have not been paid in 3 years or so, they're probably never going to get paid. at one point, I'm aware that we had a collection agency working with us, and realistically, they're not able to actually collect. And so, even then, you know, with them pestering folks, which we're not interested in doing, they weren't getting as much success as we would have liked. So anyhow, we're asking that, the board authorize the district director to remove approximately $50,000 in unrecoverable fines and fees from patron account records.
So this is specifically for items that are just gone, right? Like lost or
Yes,
have been,
yes. In the past, it would have been for overdues, but we don't
Right.
have that currently. So just items that were just gone and never returned and went to lost, yeah.
So maybe I missed it, but you mentioned that like after this, it would sort of function differently year over year.
So so the thing that we're doing differently this year is while we normally would purge our patrons, which we also have not been doing, we also want to purge the fees associated with those patrons that we're purging. And so after this year, we would just bring a regular annual purge. So anything that is a fee older than 3 years, that's all we would be purging. We would purge patron records as well, but only patron records that have no fees associated with it. So that's the additional part that we wouldn't be bringing in future years.
Okay, so I'm curious about the potential impact on people. So if I'm somebody who has, let's say, old fines and I'm an inactive user, I haven't done anything, and I get purged, can I come back later and get a library card, or am I?
If you're purged, yes, you can come back and get it.
Okay, so it doesn't impact people's abilities to like use the library or do things or
No, on the contrary, it allows you to come back and have a fresh
fresh start?
start.
That seems.
And in many ways, a lot of the policy changes we've made recently, like increasing the amount of fines you can accrue before you can you get blocked from checking out, removing fines as a factor to be able to use public computers, all of these things, we're trying to make the library more available.
Perfect.
And not stop you from using the library and its services.
So I guess my question then is like, why have fines or at all, right? Like if, you know what I mean? Cause I agree with that principle of like, let's make it more accessible. Is it,
Well, the fines and fees do help us recoup and recover either, ask it kind of as a form of payment that if they can return a book, then we can recover that item, or help us to replace some of the materials that are lost. But again, most people that are going to perform that function, either returning the item or paying the fees, are gonna do it within the first 3 years. Beyond that, they pretty much decide, I'm not gonna use a library, or I'm just not gonna use the services because I owe fees and I can't utilize services again.
do you have a sense of how many people are actually in that, but right, like for how many people is a sort of set of fines or fees, is that a barrier to library use? Or is that just
I did pull a report on less than 3 years, and it's only $7,000. So most people have a pretty low
pretty
fine
minimal?
count.
Okay,
Total of 9,000 users, which is actually pretty decent amount of people, but most of them have like only 1 or 2
right,
fines or fees on their account. So generally, it's not a significant barrier. And it's a pretty small number when it's under that 3-year mark. When you get
right,
to past 3 years, starts to pile up a little bit more.
right, got it. Okay,
well, I think it's like the philosophical question, right? It's like, we have this like good neighbor tier in a sense. So it's almost like, what weird level do we say if you have destroyed $1,000 of property or something like that?
Well, that's
Does
the
this
question.
become an issue, you know?
Is there like a threshold for an individual borrower
Yeah.
where they're being stopped from, having a few bad actors who are
Yeah.
really racking up the bills? I assume there is.
So right now, the checkout threshold is if you owe $50 or more, with exception. So if you're willing to make small payments toward and each time you check out. I don't know what the thresholds are because I'm more on the back end of things, not on the public services as much, but I do know that they offer the option to still continue to check out if you're able to make small payments toward your balance. But beyond $50 generally is where we stop from checking out. most items. Unless you're, you know, taking an active role in trying to reduce that balance down.
And what is the average balance? You know what I mean? Are we, is for most people who have anything on their account, are we talking like $20 or?
I didn't pull those numbers, but generally it's under that $50
It's like,
threshold.
yeah,
Yeah.
I would assume it'd be pretty nominal. Like if you
Well,
lose
the
a
only
book.
reason they have fines is because they didn't return things,
Right,
because we don't charge late fees.
right. No, I know.
Oh,
You know, it's like. They
Yeah,
just
it's like if you
return
just
the
lose
stuff,
the
and we
thing.
don't send to collections anymore, so there's not collection fees that hit their accounts, they just need to bring the stuff back.
I was
So it-
remembering a conversation where I thought we had gotten rid of, fines and fees, but it's fines, but not the fees for things that just don't come back to the
Yeah,
library.
you gotta pay for things you don't return,
Got it. Okay,
which I think it has to be that way.
yeah.
Or why would people?
But
return things?
ostensibly, they could return it at like
You're right.
3, 4, 5.
And we do offer extended checkout periods now with automatic renewals.
Yeah.
You know, so we're pretty generous with the amount of time you can keep materials, and then
Mhm.
our staff are really good about, you know, saying like, if you bring that item back and it's in good condition, we can, you know, check it in and, you know, maybe we can see if we can get it back out to you the next day or even potentially sooner if we have other available items of the same kind.
Yeah.
So to that fashion, you know, if you really want to keep something for an extended period, we provide ways for folks to be able to do that.
And really, like David said, this is more about cleaning up our database,
No, for sure.
you know?
Yeah.
Like I wanna do it once a year, or like, we're cleaning it up, I think largely it's people that moved, or.
Yeah,
You know, it's
Yeah.
just old records that like, I'd rather have, active
Sleep.
library card holders.
Yeah.
That we're sending emails to and all of that too. So.
no,
On that,
100%.
did you say, people who, what is the threshold for the patron purge? Is it, you said was it 3 years?
Yes,
Did
so
they have
what
any-
yeah, that's a pretty standard one, and that's what we had used in the past prior to me being here, but that's generally pretty standard. And I put in there the numbers, I believe, for both 5 years and 3 years. And the difference there, so 31,000 for 5 years or older, and then 45,000 for 3 years or older. And again, that has to do with the fact that since I've been here for some time now, we haven't done any purging, so it has accumulated. Year after year, moving forward, to be significantly less.
Do we purge patrons, like regardless of the fee issued, like inactivity?
So we normally would, we generally don't purge if they have fees associated with their account, because there is a potential for them to return and pay it. However, if they have no fines or fees on their account, we would just automatically purge them. And I put the years is usually 3 years is the number. Otherwise, it was noted. So a curiosity card is 1 year, digital card is 1 year.
Yep.
Teacher is set as annual per the school year. But we hadn't done that either. So that's kind of why that other
Put
part
them
is
together, yep.
in front of you. But otherwise, it's a normal process where we wouldn't purge any fines or fees unless we bring that to the board, but purging patrons just to clean up the database and keep those most active patrons, this is the general process that we go through.
Makes sense.
Any additional questions for David?
Thanks.
Okay. Then is there a motion to, let's find the words. To authorize the district director to, can't see all the words. To remove the almost $50,000 of unrecoverable patron fines and fees and other fines and fees due to a patron purge.
I would move staff's recommendation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, next item, review and approval of the GAN appropriations limit for fiscal year 25-26.
All right, good evening again. So it's just that time of year again. In June, the board has to review and accept the appropriation limit based on fiscal year 25-26. This year, we actually put the link, if you're curious to see where the data is pulled, to be able to calculate the per capita change as well as the population change. Literally, you just plug those numbers in and it spits out what the most that you can basically levy or collect in tax revenue. So, oh, and I didn't update that. So the 25-26 GAM limit this year is $5,228,604. The amount that we have in our proposed budget right now is almost 4.6 million. So as you can see, we're well under $655,304 under the GAM limit. So just wanted to bring you this information and make the recommendation that you review and approve the appropriation limit for 25-26.
Any questions for Nikki? Okay, and can we get a motion to approve the GAN appropriation limit for the fiscal year 25-26?
So,
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. So next item, review and approval of the admin specialist job description.
Yep, that's me again, thank you. So those of you that have worked with me for years now understand what a difficult time I've had. Staffing, it originally was called Administrative Services Manager, then it became Office Manager, then it became Staff Accountant. Through all of this time, I've worked really closely with Trustee even to make sure that our lights are on, our bills are getting paid, and we're, really trying to figure out the most streamlined way to make that job work. So her and I had a couple conversations after our staff accountant left at the end of January. And what her and I agree is that Bailey handles most of our accounting and reporting needs. It's really someone that in the office can handle a lot of the administrative work and assist Bailey in making sure that everything that we're doing gets done. So as you can see from the job description, I worked with both our HR consultant, Patty Francisco, our previous classification and compensation firm, which was called Kopp and Associates, now it's Gallagher. I had him review and approve it, and he provided feedback as well as Trustee and I looking at some of the sample job descriptions we were given by Mike and looking at our previous job descriptions to make sure that it was made sense. This is what we're hoping is gonna make the most sense to have the job be successful and hopefully fillable and someone that will stick around for a while. So, as you can see, it's just not so accounting heavy, as, our previous two staff accountants one was a private CPA, last one had a finance degree. I just really feel like we need someone that whatever gets thrown at us, they're resourceful and can figure it out. I do think it'll be QuickBooks, doing some, data entry, cutting checks, but nothing super accounting heavy, if that makes sense. So, again, I'm really hopeful that this one's gonna be the right one. And like Trustee mentioned, the goal will be to move any of those really out of scope things that Bailey should not have to be doing for us, which we're paying them quite a bit of money hourly, to this person that we bring on board. So the goal will be long-term that we're spending less with Bailey. So happy to answer any questions you might have. And yeah, I'm just recommending that we approve this new job description of administrative specialist.
I know you gave some examples, but what would a typical, could you
So
break it down in a different way? What would the typical, a day look like, or the task?
well, the things that need to be handled in person. So a lot of that is receiving of all the bills through the mail and handing them out to the appropriate manager to review and approve, then uploading those and getting the checks cut. I sign the checks, those go out. They would assist with payroll. Cause I don't think it's sustainable that I do payroll and I'm training Ashley on it. I want this person to also understand payroll. But because it's like, it's not a function that's easy to do remotely, because they don't know who's here and who's not here. So that would be something that they would assist with payroll. So cutting of checks, keeping an eye on cash flow in the bank account. You know, we have most of our money with class. We have to make sure that we have enough cash to be able to pay the bills and keep an eye on that. Trying to think what else. And then there's just other things, and Christy, feel free to chime in if it makes sense. There's just other functions that Bailey's handling for us that I think she believes this person in-house could take over, that's outside of like serious accounting principles and reporting.
One significant area, and this is only going to continue for the next year and a half, but it's all of the tracking for your building project. So that, you know, you don't need to pay us a couple $100 an hour to do that, but it does need to be someone who's detail oriented and can look at them and determine based on a set of criteria, which ones are grant eligible, get those all paid, submitted to US Bank, make sure they're that packet and the support is correct. So it's very administrative and maybe on the end of bookkeeping, but certainly not something that will change or that you need our specialized services for. So that's a big area. But I think then that gets replaced when that piece ends with other items because the main library will be back up and running and you'll have more office, just even electronic filing and documentation and your retention policy and things that you don't need to have someone on the outside do, but do take up quite a bit of time. Recording deposits in the system, running reports, not analyzing them as much, but running reports and helping all the managers manage their budgets. Those are things that are definitely a little more specialized, but still office.
Yeah, I can't believe I forgot CFD requisitions.
That's big right now, yeah.
Got requisition 219 and 220. So anytime we have a building project bill, it has to be submitted separately to US Bank through requisition. So that's another task that sometimes we get 10 building project bills in a week, you know, so that's another thing that they can do it for us, but it's administrative more than it's like, you know, analysis of the bill. But yeah, the tracking that they've had to do related to whether it's grant eligible or not as well. There's a lot of things, and that's where like, I think Christy and I have felt like the person can just like be resourceful and detail oriented and ask good questions, and that's really what we need more than someone that has a really strong accounting background is how I would probably best describe it.
Agree.
It seems like you still need someone with a good accounting background, but that you are fleshing out, like it's not just focused on accounting, like you're broadening the scope, their scope a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, to be more administrative functions too. So yeah, like. If you, as you look at the job description, there's not a lot of like. What's the word? Oversight, it's like assist with. You know what I mean? Like. I'm gonna continue to oversee payroll, but I'm gonna teach them and hopefully they could be backup. You know what I mean? I don't know, it's this fine balance that I've had a hard time striking in this position. Because when it was too much HR and finance, it was too much. So we tried to pull out a lot of the HR function, which we did. I don't know. Again, this may not be the perfect solution, but I'm hoping that we can attract the right person and that it will be successful filling this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this has been also filling this role, like even before. You know, the attempts we've made in recent years too. This has like been a long-standing issue for the district for decades, basically, is having somebody in this finance role. I guess my only question, I think this is great. I'm happy to take another swing at it. And, you know, I think you're right that if we can find a smart person who's willing to learn the systems that are specific to the district, they will be successful. My question, I guess, is about sort of where you're thinking about advertise, like where are these people that one would find, right? If they're not necessarily like CPA specific, like, do you have a sense of who they would be and how they would come across this, or like what?
I mean, I could see it being people that work in county or municipal government and administrative capacities.
Uh-huh,
You know, so I could see us posting it, like with GFOA potentially, which is, you know, finance.
yeah,
But also government jobs.
Yeah.
I think this would be and Mike and I talked about it, it is then the next natural step for maybe like an administrative assistant
mhm,
who wants to gain broader experience in an administrative capacity, which could then lead down to you know, a job in finance
sure,
or
sure,
whatever it is, but I feel like that's the target audience is someone who'd wanna like grow in an administrative function.
right, that makes sense to me.
And there's a lot of them. I mean,
Yeah.
every city has, like, there may be an administrative assistant in every department,
Sure,
you know, it's not just in like the city manager's office or something. So. That's
That
kind of
makes
what I'm-
more sense because I don't know, just reading the job description, it still feels very, um, foggy, like not very specific. And I get, you know, it sounds like the nature of what is needed is not like,
super
you
clear.
know, black and white, right? And that's hard for me to process, but it's, I guess if you know what you're looking for, you know what you need.
Mhm. Yeah, it's more like qualities and skill set to some extent than like,
specific experience. or-
exactly,
Yeah.
you know, so. Like Danielle and I were talking about today, you never know what is gonna pop up around here that you gotta figure out,
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
So like, the management team has been talking a long time about like. The quality we need most of late is resiliency,
yeah.
cause I can't even tell you what's gonna happen in 6 months from now.
Right.
Mhm.
Are we doing a building project? Are we not? Are we? You know, so again, that's kind of, we'll see if this one sticks.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm also happy to, like Kay said, to have you give another go, but I would say the only other thing that I'm concerned about is, how, like, if you have a host of people in front of you interviewing for such a role, like how it's communicated to them, like, we never know what's, you know, like you just said, we never know what we're gonna need. And that, you know, just could come across to people that, again, it's not very finite. I don't know the word that I'm looking for, right? So that someone will really have a good understanding of like, okay, what am I supposed to be doing day to day? And that's why I asked the question in that way, like, what would a day look like for that person? So just something to think about in terms of the interviewing, I
Yeah,
guess.
well, even how we post the job
Yeah.
bulletin, like,
Yeah.
I like it to be really clear. Like, if you don't see yourself in this way, like, we might not be the right place for you. And just being open,
Yeah.
but it's definitely in how you ask questions, I think, too. You know,
Mhm.
when it comes first initial screening and then final interview too.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for Nikki?
I guess my only other question, so currently, obviously, between you and it sounds like to some extent Ashley and certainly I, Bailey, we kind of have all of this backstopped. Is it gonna be sustainable to continue to backstop all of that and onboard and train somebody? You know what I mean, at the same time that there's like a lot of stuff going on? Or should we expect to see, you know, kind of slightly higher bills from Ideally for a while to cover some, what's your sense of like how that will go? Cause it seems like there's always this like higher intensity period, right? When we bring somebody new in before they can kind of pick stuff up and run with it on their own.
Well, we've been really fortunate that as things have come up, Catalina's been helping. So I think she has a pretty good overview and understanding of the work as well.
Yeah,
So I know that that will only be a
Yeah.
resource.
Yeah.
We will see higher bills than I'd like to, but, for probably the next couple months.
Yeah.
But it's all gonna depend on who we bring on board and how quickly they pick things up,
Right,
what I
Right.
would say.
yeah, I think that's reasonable. Okay.
But I do know Christy and Adrian and her team are really dedicated to getting someone trained on the work that's makes the whole system the most streamlined for everybody,
Sure.
you know?
Yeah, if there are no other questions, is there a motion to approve the new administrative specialist job description?
I will move to approve the job description.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next item, review and approval of the Altadena Library District proposed fiscal year budget for 25-26.
Okay, I think, I don't have a page number in front of me. Do you, Nikki? Or has everybody turned to that page? It's 113 maybe? I'm sorry, I have my workbook up in case there are other questions. I think it's page 113. We'll start with the general fund budget. We did meet with the budget committee to go through this in quite a bit of detail. And of course, the one known/unknown in this budget are your property tax revenues. So we've put the budget together, spent quite a bit of time running through different scenarios, but basically the budget is here with the information that we have to date. We don't have information that says we should slash everything. We don't have information that says we can increase anything. So Nikki and her staff did a really good job of being conservative, but also continuing to move forward. So the intent right now is that the building project will go on as scheduled. And because of that, some of the lines will have cuts because there's an anticipation that the library will be closed for a little bit of time. So keep those things in mind as we go through some of the lines. The first line, we do have a calculation from the county, and that is that there will be approximately a 31% decrease in property tax assessments this year. However, an almost correlating line, line 7 for state revenue, is that AB 100 was passed and there will be a backfill on those dollars. It's not exact, and that's because there are some other types of revenue in there that we've decreased, just to be conservative. But for the most part, that line will be made up below. The other line that you will see that goes along with that is, again, on line 7 for state revenue, a portion of this year's tax revenues that might not be assessed or could be refunded are going to be backfilled. At this point in time, we've only heard that that's $12,000. I anticipate that that line could go up, but regardless, anything you see as a decrease in line 2, we would anticipate in the next line. Line 3 is the special tax assessment. That was Measure A, which sunsets this year and is intended to be replaced with the special tax that was passed via Measure Z. However, the Measure Z tax, which we'll talk about later, and that budget will come to you at a different point in time, right now is being utilized to make your debt service payments on the bonds that were issued for the building. So in that line, there is no backfill. Currently, anything from the state. We are anticipating and have seen dollars that say those will go down, that we will see some losses this year and potentially next year. However, there is room to increase those taxes. Right now, the consideration or the deliberation, I guess, is how much do they need to be increased and to what different taxpayers. So that will all be handled via a special meeting toward the end of July, beginning of August, before that information has to go to the county. But there have been multiple meetings on that, trying to determine what those will be. So to be conservative here, since Measure Z, a portion of that special tax should replace this, we've left the line constant. We're not showing any increase. We're not showing a decrease. We believe the district will be able to make that up by assessing at the maximum level that they're allowed. Again, these two items could change a little bit, but this is where the information that we have to date. Library fees, slight increase there, just again, being conservative. The library will be open more than it was in the closure, from the fire, but then there will also be some months at the end of the year where we anticipate it being closed. Grants, we left in line. Grant reimbursements, that's coming from your Building Forward grant that pays for a portion of salaries and some consulting charges and things that are related to the grant. Interest, we were allocating or budgeting over 4% this year to be a little more conservative. We've taken down both the invested balance and the rate to about between 3 and 3.5%. If it stays strong at the beginning of the year, that's going to, help with that line, but we wanted to be a little bit more conservative. I already spoke about that state revenue line. That line does not include the things that Katie was talking about earlier, Director was talking about earlier, where there is an ask out for the state, whether it be for a forgivable loan or other types of funding. That is not included because we don't have any definite information on that. The other revenue we're just, again, to be conservative, we've taken it down a little bit. We had things in there, potential film revenue. We just tried to be conservative, take out some of those. So there's a slight decrease in that line. So you do see almost $100,000 decrease in revenue over last year. Where in most years, we're anticipating that to grow. This year, we're showing about $100,000 deficit. When it comes to the next section, we get into expenses for salaries. It looks like a large amount in salaried versus a decrease in hourly. That's primarily due to an hourly position that last year was classified as hourly. It should have been salary. So this year we've moved it to salary. So that most of that decrease is made up for in the salaried line. The rest of what you're seeing is merit increases. The steps are 2.5%. COLA, we've projected at 3%. So when you'll notice the next agenda item is to approve the new salary schedule with a 3% COLA. February was 3.1, March, April, and May have all stayed for your area at CPI at 3%, which is the figure that we usually use. So we're recommending that be 3% this year. Other expenses, when we get into benefits, retirement taxes, most of those increase in line with the salaries. For instance, the health insurance. We do have some vacant positions that have been budgeted at the maximum amount. So if one of those employees were to take less than the entire package that's offered, you would have some savings there. Just as a reminder, over the last 2 to 3 years, the district has done a really good job of trying to retain employees and increasing that allowance. It was approved at $1,675 last year. We're recommending that stay this year. And so that portion every month goes to employees toward their health insurance. Anything over that, employees pay. But again, if you're a new employee, we're expecting you take that full benefit, and some may not. Retiree health insurance in line 18, rate increases. We've estimated about 11%. Again, just based on quotes that we're getting from CalPERS and other insurance. Workers' comp, there is an increase this year as well for the compensation. Workers' compensation, again, due to rates. There's other pieces that go into that. There weren't a lot of large claims last year, so this is really more anticipated, more on just the rates. Payroll taxes, 14% increase is about in line with your net increase in salaries. The CalPERS retirement, I mentioned earlier, there was a budget this year for anticipated costs to include 2 more employees into the CalPERS system. We did not include it for next year. So if we do get information that doesn't come in this year and it comes in later, there will be a mid-year adjustment. But we've taken that back to what a normal budget would look like. Your minimum, your CalPERS UAL, which is your unfunded liability, has gone up. That all has to do with, again, CalPERS valuations based on our districts giving higher increases in salaries than they anticipated. Our earnings higher or lower than anticipated. And the majority of this reason for the increase, which has been across all CalPERS members, has to do with earnings that they targeted coming in at less. I will tell you that already I've seen the report for this year. The district's report came in above target. So that number is going to continue to fluctuate through the life of your contract, your agreement with CalPERS. So it is a decrease this year. I anticipate next year you'll see a little bit of a dip. That discretionary payment is what you can make to pay down that. We talked about having an educational session. So for this year, we did not budget it at all for the district, but we'll talk about that. That line can be added or changed after that meeting. It can be handled during a mid-year adjustment. Operating expenses, again, staff were being as conservative as possible. Still continuing business as usual, but not anything far-reaching for any of the lines. So most of these are rate increases, or if you see decreases, it's anticipated closures. So insurance going up based on our quotes, utilities going down, and that's because there should be a period of time where those will be very low for the district when the library's closed. County tax collection fees, we just left that constant. There other operating, less supplies, less equipment, again, being conservative. Facilities, ground and maintenance, your grounds manager, Daniel, went through everything extensively, got quotes, and is showing an increase for the contracts that you've entered into or will be entering into for the next year. So that's about a 20% increase. Structures improvements is a line that's not always used. It's for emergencies. This year it was used for fire remediation. Vehicles and equipment has gone up a little bit because you're now maintaining 2 mobile libraries instead of 1. So that's anticipated. Staff training, again, being conservative. Marketing, you won't have any new openings this year. Last year that was up a little bit because promotions for the Bob Lucas Library reopening. Next year we won't have anything. Trustee election only occurs every other year, so we don't have that in the budget this year. And we did not budget any increase or decrease for miscellaneous expenses, things that come in through the year. Professional services, I am showing a decrease to the line. I'm hoping that that will be even less to, again, go to some of the comments that were made by directors. Your audit is not much of an increase on your audit fees. It's primarily the financial consulting accounting you're getting from Eide Bailey. So we anticipate coming in lower than this year's budget, but still showing a little bit of a rate increase. So again, we won't charge if the work doesn't need to be done. And we are also creating efficiencies. Something we just did was help the district convert to the online version of QuickBooks, which there's lots of improvements in different processes that allow us to do things easier and also the district staff. So we're always looking for efficiencies. I'm hoping that decrease can be even lower as through the year, but we did want to put in some room for the training and things that you spoke about. Legal, we always try to budget a conservative number and hope that you don't use all that. Consultants, your budget has been a little higher for HR consulting and a few other miscellaneous ones that we've taken out of the budget for this year. So showing about a 20% decrease there. Information technology is showing a slight decrease overall of 3%. A lot of that has to do with the work that David has done in bundling different maintenance contracts, at least in terms of telecommunications, switching some of the platforms that are being used for technology. So there's a little bit of a decrease there. Materials, overall 25% increase. You can see the majority of that has to do with your books, with the library being closed, not buying as many purchases of additional materials there, instead keeping up downloadables and some of the more electronic things that can be done for the patrons. Programming, same thing, quite a bit of a decrease here in a couple of lines, mainly the adult services, and I believe that is mostly due to the library, the anticipated closure of the library for a period of time. So this year for FY25, you had budgeted to use $74,500. We're showing, again, I've updated this since May, that perhaps you'll be adding $135,000. But next year, to be conservative, since the revenue is conservative, we are showing that the district will use $194,000. So it's $120,000 more dip into the reserves than we budgeted this year. And again, just trying to be conservative with the information we have to date. So I know that was a lot. We also provided a detailed narrative of some of the lines if I didn't go through them enough. Are there any questions about either assumptions that were made or any lines in particular?
Christy, let me double check my understanding on something and make sure I'm following you. So this year, for our current fiscal year, we originally thought we would need to spend 74.5 from reserves, but instead we're adding 135 to reserves because property taxes came in higher than expected before the fires. And then next year, assuming that all of the revenue assumptions that you have made, which I think are very reasonable, are true, we would be using 190, almost 195,000 out of reserve. But that means our 2-year net reserve impact would be about $60,000, right? Like
Correct. Yes.
between this and next, okay.
Yep,
Okay.
exactly. Because we're able to add a little more this year, it helps with next year's deficit. And you're right, the net of
Right.
those two is only 60,000.
Okay, because that 194 is a big number, but we're putting
Mhm.
135 in this year,
Right.
so it's,
If not more.
if not more, right?
And when
Right.
our step increases are 5%, I think Christie said 2.5, so.
Oh, I'm
this
sorry,
builds in-
Nikki. Yeah.
Okay, builds in the 5% merit increase steps as well as the 3% COLA and the 2
Yeah.
management positions and the staff for
Right.
the administrative specialist position as well.
Right,
So it
okay,
includes all of that, which, you know, we didn't fill the 2 managers or have those in place.
Right.
Almost this whole year, so that was part of it.
that's right, that's
Yeah.
right. Not to muddy the water, but let me just ask, I know that we have had a number of conversations with the assessor's office about like whether or not the county is pulling back money or applying back money or doing whatever based on, is that reflected in here at all, or are we assuming we're gonna keep what we've got? Like, how are we figuring that into the?
Next year's budget definitely shows the decrease that the county showed us. That 1 million, almost $1.1 million directly from the county with where they're at to date. That's what they anticipate that being. For this
Okay.
year, we all were expecting to see higher refunds. We
Right.
haven't seen them. The data doesn't show them. So I can't answer to that until I see June's final report, which
Okay.
won't be until the first week of July. I did see those decreases with your special tax. So I definitely saw them there. And the only thing I can make reason of that is a comment that was made by either one of the county auditor staff or the assessors. And that is that several patrons pay their taxes through their mortgage. And so they're paying their taxes, whether that's happened or not, and that they're not going back and refunding those. So I think residents can ask for refunds, but if they're not and they've already been paid, they're not proactively giving those dollars back. That's the only reason, because I expected it to be higher than the $12,000 that I was shown to date.
Right, okay, no, that makes sense then, I hadn't really understood that was, the 12,000 was the sum total of that, I had expected it to be a much higher number.
If it is higher, Katie, then that 135 does
Yeah.
change, of course.
No, of course. Okay.
Any additional questions?
It's a really basic question, but so assuming this all bakes in the operation of Loma Alta on top of the reopening of Bob Lucas, on top of having Maine potentially closed down, new reconstruction project. If that changes for whatever reason, process for us on the budget is what at that point, if we adopt this version?
So we typically do mid-year budget adjustments.
Okay,
So if we really felt like it's something significant, we could meet with the budget committee sooner. And then bring back an amended budget if we felt like it was really that substantially different. But otherwise, we always adjust at mid-year to reflect those things. Yeah, this was the hardest year of budgeting.
It's really hard, well, but I think it's I think all the assumptions make sense, and it's really hard to do without knowing what's gonna happen, but I think it's
Yeah,
real
I
good.
texted our lobbyist this morning. I was hoping she might have heard something.
Yeah,
over the
right,
weekend.
right.
Still haven't heard back from her. She was hoping to hear something today, so.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. Which is not a
And
great
that's-
way to.
Yeah, it's like not ideal.
But we are having
On-
those meetings with the county, with your liaison there. I mean, we're having all the meetings and putting forth all the inquiries we can. We just are waiting for the final information, so.
As well as meeting with members of our bond issuance team.
Right,
Just, talking to our bond council, our special tax assessment firm, we met
yes,
last week. Twice, I think, or something, but again. Trying to gather as much information as we can
Yeah.
to make this as informed as we must,
On a cash flow question, do we know how that million from the state, the backfill, the AB 100 backfill money, do we get all that up front? Does it go to the count? Like, how does that cash flow into us? Do we know?
do you know, Nikki, what I understand is that as soon as that dollar amount, or as soon as it's approved, like it's been approved, but as soon as we hear something final, the district submits a claim, and within a couple of months, you get it all up front. That's my understanding.
Do we get both years at once, or do we just get 1 year at a time? Cause I'm thinking if we get both years at once, we could stick it in class.
Yeah, I
Well,
think you're
girl-
gonna get 26. I think you get it up front, don't you, Nikki? I think FY 26, as soon as you
Maybe it's
do the claim.
It's only that million for next year.
I thought it was 2 years. I thought it was 26 and
20
27.
Oh, no,
No.
25, 26.
Oh, okay.
So the county was only showing that 12,000 for this.
Got
fiscal
it.
year.
Right.
Okay,
So it would just be for next year,
gotcha.
which
Okay.
I mean, it's still.
No, like I would like that $1 million, please, but yeah. No, I'm not turning my nose up at anything.
That's a good Gene question.
Yeah.
Yeah, have her confirm that, because we've been told sometimes things have changed, but that was the
Mhm.
last communication I understood. And you're exactly right. As long as class is performing, that's where the dollars are going. And that's why the district has a healthy reserve, so that not only is it what you're budgeting and when you get it, it's that you have something to work off of while you're waiting for funding.
Any additional questions? If none, can we get a motion to adopt the proposed fiscal year 25-26 budget?
And do you want me to go through donations and grants first before you, in one motion, or do you want to do it by piece, Nikki?
Um,
You have a preference? Sorry about that.
I think it should be the whole thing.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, I was ready to move.
I know, that's okay. Well, these will be quicker. These are a little different. So donation and grants.
I didn't
Um,
realize that
You're like,
we
"Yeah,
hadn't
that's good,
done
Jimmy,
it.
let's
I
go."
thought she was done.
Nope. Donations and grants did not change a lot, although your revenue did go down because you had some great one-time gifts last year. You had the Building Equity Based Summers Program, and you had that wonderful LeVar Burton event. So your grant revenues do go down because of that. And but it's been allocated. There are no other major changes in any type of programming or materials. To my knowledge, I don't believe we've discussed any new initiatives. It's just continuing to do what you do with the funds that come in. So again, we budget a zero ending balance, that you utilize every fund that comes in. And throughout the year, Ashley and her team do look for additional grants as they become aware. And so we will adjust those at mid-year too. Every year it seems to be, there's another grant or something that they're able to take advantage of. So that's the donations and grants. For capital, we did budget this based on again, moving forward with your project manager's schedule and timeline. We've reduced interest income significantly because if it continues, the balance will go down and you'll be earning less dollars, as well as me mentioning that there is a yield restriction. So it's not earn anything you can, it's earn up to approximately 3% is all that can be earned. So we've adjusted that line down. So there's your capital schedule. And again, most of that's just coming from bond and grant. Not most of it, all of it comes from bond or grant proceeds. So that's your capital schedule. We will, as I mentioned, bring you the CFD budget at a later, probably a special meeting after all of that information has been processed with your NBS and that group that is helping calculate that after they receive county data. So there is one more budget to be approved at a later date, and that affects your decisions on the building project and the bond proceeds and so forth. So for tonight, it's general fund, donation, grants, and capital. So if there aren't any other questions, then I think you can continue, Camila.
Now, is there a motion to approve the fiscal year 25-26 budget,
So,
proposed budget?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, okay. Next item, review and approval of the Altadena Library District cost of living adjustment and the salary schedule for the next fiscal year. Who will be presenting on this?
You want to talk
So,
about?
Christie kind of already covered in the regular budget, and we learned our lesson from the budget committee. We had COLA go first and it didn't make sense without seeing it in context of the whole budget.
Right.
So, again, this just is presenting what it looks like with a 3% COLA. This is where the board could discuss and recommend a different percentage. But as you can see, the COLA adds $75,382 to the overall budget, and you can see the salary schedule below. Happy to answer any questions. And again, yeah, it's based on CPI for the last 3 months.
Seems reasonable.
yeah, so the only discussion that we had was whether we should try to tighten the belt slightly, given the uncertainty in everything. But given the numbers, it just didn't seem like it was warranted.
Yeah.
And, we're holding on to faith that California will come through for us.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that makes sense. I mean, who know, right? Like, who knows where we'll all end up? But I think it's right. It doesn't make sense to sort of do that ahead of time without knowing. Yeah, we just don't have any information on, to base that decision on. So
Exactly.
it would mostly just be like
We were
anxiety.
asked, like, would it spare jobs or would it?
Yeah,
And it's like, the answer is no.
Right.
And that, like, 75,000, like, if we were facing $1 million deficit.
it doesn't matter.
So I think, again, the strategy was assuming we're going to collect everything that we can.
Right.
The 3% is what we recommend, so.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Any discussion? Okay, can we get a motion to approve the proposed cost of living adjustment for the next fiscal year?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. And then we have lastly, for new business review and approval of the Altadena Library District Director cost of living for fiscal year 25-26.
So I love talking about this. So as was done in the past, I was asked to bring this as a separate item, when the board approves COLA for the whole staff. So just proposing that, I'm also eligible for the COLA. And Christie will answer any questions.
I approve. Oh, wait.
Any questions?
No, I
Discussion?
think this is, I'm glad we
Okay.
do it this way now. This is much less confusing than some of the ways we've done it in the past, so. Motion to approve.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you. Okay, moving on to governance. Is there any governance?
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Thank
Good night.
Have a good night. In announcements and planning, any correspondence or future agenda items?
Can I ask a question about our meeting schedule?
Yes, I was just gonna bring it up.
Okay, then I will listen to the answer.
Well,
Yeah.
so the next board meeting is scheduled for July
28th,
28th.
Right.
I'm at 10.
I highly doubt we will have what we need to set the special tax rate by then.
No.
So if the board prefers, which is what we did last year, we could cancel the 28th and just have a special meeting once we have, and it is my full hope and intention to get the data, put it together, take it to the CFD committee first. I mean, to me, that's one of the main reasons that committee exists.
Yeah, so that would happen in July-ish, and
Yeah.
then late July, we have the CFD, and then we push to next month, right? Or a special
Right,
meeting.
so, but I mean, like, it's a very short timeframe.
Right.
In that Sarah's hoping she'll get the county data the week of July 21st.
Right,
And then hopefully be able to turn around and give us what we need to present to the CFD committee. Being that that's not gonna be a regularly scheduled meeting, we only need a day technically to get it scheduled, but people do have to come here. So I'm hopeful we'd be able to schedule CFD by the end of July, would be my goal. And then we'd probably have the full board meeting the next week, maybe like the first week of August. So, cause I don't know that it makes
yeah.
sense to have two meetings.
No, I think that is right. In the past, I'm vaguely remembering that there was like a deadline the county had for us that we had to get them our rate that we set, is
Yeah,
that right?
it's August 10th.
August 10th, so
It is.
whatever our special meeting is, it'll have to be before.
It'll have
August
to be
10th.
before.
Okay. Which is a Sunday, so yeah, okay, so like fourth, fifth, sixth.
Yeah, when we met
Ideally.
with Sarah, she was thinking maybe they'd give till the 11th, but no, she confirmed the
Okay.
deadline as the 10th.
Gotcha.
So that's what I would propose is we fit in CFD and the regular board meeting. Maybe we just try to plan for the end of that week in August. Based on availability, Catalina will reach out,
yeah.
Yeah,
cause I don't think we need a lot of time to submit to the county.
right,
Words, so
right. Okay,
does that make sense?
yeah,
So we'll just plan on canceling July 28th and canceling, there's a CFD committee meeting on the books too. So we'll cancel both and then get those rescheduled.
okay.
You have to vote on that?
No.
No.
All right, then we are adjourned at 7:12.
Boom.
Thank you.